Hello and welcome to this coding lesson. In this lesson, we will be performing hands-on data extraction using the following Python libraries for web scraping. We will be using request library for sending HTTP requests and beautiful soup library for parsing HTML content. So let us start by installing the above mentioned libraries using Python's package manager, that is pip. I've already installed it on my system, but you can go ahead and run these two lines of code, that is pip install request and pip install beautiful soup for. Once the installation has been finished, we can import the libraries in Python using the following import convention. So I'll go ahead and run these two lines of code to import request and beautiful soup in Python. Now let us recall the web scraping workflow briefly. The first step is to request the target website for its content. We will then receive the HTML content from the target website as a response. And we will finally parse the HTML content and extract the necessary data. So we are using the weather reports data from the Estes Park weather website, where the data is available in a monthly format for each day of the month. For the purpose of this tutorial, we are taking the data for the month of May 2020, which is in the format 2020-05, that is the month of May. So let us go ahead and have a brief look at the website and how the data is arranged. So as we can see, we have several data for each day of the month in a tabular format. Our aim is to extract the data for each of the days from the tables using web scraping. Now, we already discussed that the data is received as an HTML content from the website. So in order to parse this data, we will need to know the HTML tag under which this data is present. So we'll go ahead and right click on this page and click on Inspect. This will open up a developer tools window from where we can check the tag of each of the elements of this page. We will now go ahead and check for the tag of the data using the selector arrow in the DevTools window. So let's go ahead and check the tag for our required data. So as we can see, the data is under the table tag. So let us go ahead and scrape this data from the website. The first step is to send a request to the target website for receiving its content as a response. This can be done by using the get function of the request library. We first assign the URL into a variable called URL. We will then use the following code, that is request.get, for getting the content from the target website as a response. So I'll go ahead and run these lines of code. And we can see that we receive a 200 response, which means that it is a successful response. So now we can go ahead and view the first 500 character content of the page using the .content method. So I'll go ahead and print this. So we can see that we are essentially receiving the response as an HTML content in the form of a string. So after getting the response, we will now parse the received content using the HTML parser from Beautiful Soup. So we can do that by using the following line of code, which is Beautiful Soup response.content, and we are using the HTML parser from Beautiful Soup. So I'll go ahead and run this code. And we can now extract the data values from the table tag for the month of May 2020 using the find all method of Beautiful Soup on the soup variable. So we can go ahead and write this line of code, that is soup.findAll, and the name of the tag, that is table, which will be saved in a variable called table data. So I'll go ahead and run this line of code and print the first table data. So as we can see, it returns the HTML content present inside the table tag. So the 0 index of this variable gives us the HTML data for May 1. Similarly, for the first index, we can get the value for the May 2nd of this data, and so on. Now, what we can do is get the data that we just saw in a plain text format, that is, extracting only the text values from each of the tags. We can do so by running this line of code, that is .text. So we can see that we got the data in the form of a string, and however, this data is quite hard to read and contains unwanted characters. So in our next lesson, we will learn how to transform this data in a proper readable format. So I'll see you in the next lesson.